The scent hit me first. Julia's familiar perfume, laced with something foreign, something masculine, something that didn't belong in our bedroom at 3 in the afternoon on a Wednesday when she was supposedly at a charity board meeting. I stood frozen in the doorway of our house in Scottsdale, Arizona, keys dangling in my hand, staring at my wife as she yanked a blanket to cover herself. The guy next to her, my business partner and closest friend for over a decade, didn't even flinch. "Mark," Julia said, her voice calm, like she hadn't just been caught red-handed. "You're back early." Vince, sprawled on the bed, reached for his jeans with the lazy confidence of someone who'd been here before, too many times. "Roads were clear coming back from Tucson," I said, my words sounding hollow, like they came from someone else. That's when it hit me, my old life was done. Julia was always a smooth talker. It's what made her such a killer marketing consultant, she'd laugh. But standing there, watching her calculate her next move like a chess player, I realized she'd been playing me for years. "This isn't what you think," she said, sitting up, adjusting the blanket. Vince finally spoke. "Mark, come on, man, let's talk." "Don't," I said, raising a hand. "Just don't." I walked downstairs to the kitchen, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and sat at the oak table Julia had chosen when we redid the place 2 years ago. That same table where we'd dreamed about moving to a bigger house, maybe starting a family, where she'd hugged me this morning and said she loved me. They came down 15 minutes later, dressed, armed with excuses. "It was a one-time thing," Julia said, leaning against the counter. "We didn't mean for this to happen." "How long?" I asked, staring at the bottle in my hand. She glanced at Vince, a quick, telling look. "They'd rehearsed this." 8 months, Vince admitted. "But, Mark, your marriage was already, get out of my house," I said, my voice steady, almost too steady. Vince opened his mouth, then closed it. "What about the company?" he asked. "Out." After they left, I sat there, trying to wrap my head around it. Not just the affair, that was betrayal, plain and simple, but the way they'd looked at each other, the polished lies, the way Julia had pushed me to take that trip to Tucson for a project that, now that I thought about it, could have been handled over email. I went upstairs, ripped the sheets off the bed, and tossed them in the laundry. In the hamper, I found a shirt that reeked of unfamiliar cologne, not Vince's. My phone pinged. A text from Julia, "We should talk when you're ready." I wasn't, but I was starting to see things clearly. The next morning, I called in sick to the job site and drove to my office in downtown Scottsdale. Bennett Construction, my pride and joy for over a decade, had been my everything. Vince came on as a silent partner 4 years ago when we started taking on bigger commercial projects. I'd trusted him completely. Now, I needed to know what that trust had cost me. At first, the books seemed fine, but I'd built this company from the ground up. I knew every detail, every quirk in the numbers. Digging deeper, I found oddities, a tweaked contract here, a shifted payment there, funds funneled to some shell company I'd never heard of. By noon, I realized Vince now owned 35% of my business. Somehow, over the last year, he'd turned his investments into equity shares, all with paperwork I'd supposedly signed. Paperwork I had no memory of. I called my attorney, Greg Walsh, and asked him to meet me at the office. "These signatures look real," Greg said, squinting at the documents. "Notarized, witnessed, the whole deal." "When did you sign these?" "I didn't," I said. He looked up, eyebrows raised. "Mark, if you're saying this is fraud, I'm not saying anything yet. I just need to know how my partner took over my company without me noticing." That afternoon, I hired a private investigator named Carla Ruiz, pricey but highly recommended by Greg's firm. "I want everything," I told her. "How long this affair's been going on, what else they're hiding, all of it. These cases can get messy," Carla warned. "You sure you want to dig this deep?" I thought about Julia's cool-headed lie, Vince's smug reach for his jeans, the stench of betrayal in my own home. "I'm already in it," I said. "I just need to know how far it goes." When I got home that night, Julia was in the kitchen, cooking my favorite, grilled steak tacos. "I sent the kids to my brother's," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Figured we should talk." Real considerate. She turned, and I saw tears. They looked real, but then I remembered how good she was at this game. "I know I hurt you," she said. "I broke something special, Mark. But we're stronger than this. We can fix it." "How?" I asked, sitting at the table. "Therapy. Total honesty. I'll cut Vince out of my life. What about the business? Her face twitched, just for a second. What about it? He's my partner. How do you cut out someone I see every day? She plated the tacos, her movements slow, precise. You could sell a share. With what money? Another twitch. We've got savings. Do we? I pressed. Of course, she said, too quickly. After dinner, I locked myself in my study and checked our accounts. Our savings, which had $38,000 last month, now had $600. The checking account was barely alive, just enough to avoid fees. My business account showed transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. I sat there, staring at the screen, a cold weight settling in my gut. This wasn't just cheating. This was a calculated takedown. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, check the shed. I walked out to our backyard shed, flipped on the light, and found it gutted. My tools, thousands of dollars worth of gear I'd collected over years, were gone. In their place, a note in Julia's handwriting, sorry, we'll explain tomorrow. Jay, standing in that empty shed, surrounded by the ghosts of my life's work, I realized tomorrow might be too late. They weren't just betraying me, they were dismantling everything I'd built. The divorce papers showed up by certified mail the next morning. Julia had beaten me to the punch, filing for irreconcilable differences and demanding full custody of our 2 kids, claiming I'd been acting unhinged and dangerous lately. I read the petition 3 times, trying to recognize the guy described in those cold, legal words. According to Julia's sworn statement, I was erratic, reckless with money, and had threatened her and Vince during our last talk. That wasn't me, but on paper, it was about to become me. I called Greg Walsh. She moved quickly, he said, flipping through the documents. This was drafted weeks ago, maybe months before you caught them. Looks like a planned effort, Mark. Someone told her to build a case before you found out. What kind of case? I asked. Medical records claiming you've got anxiety and panic attacks. Screenshots of so-called threatening texts. Bank statements showing you blowing cash. The cold in my chest spread like ice. I've never sent threats, and what's this about blowing cash? Say you've been betting on sports online. Big losses over the last 8 months. I almost chuckled. I've never bet online in my life. Someone has, using your name, Greg said. That afternoon, Carla Ruiz called with her first report. The affair's been going on for at least 2 years, she said. I've got photos, credit card charges for motels, fancy dinners. That's not the half of it, she added. What's the rest? Julia's been meeting with a divorce lawyer, Patricia Klein, from a high-end firm. Pricey. Started 9 months ago, way before she filed. She's been planning this split for a while, maybe even before the affair kicked off. I let that sink in. Anything else? Vince has been offloading assets. Sold his condo last month to some dummy corporation. Same with his car collection and a rental property. Money's flowing into offshore accounts. He's either running or hiding cash before your partnership blows up. Oh, and one more thing, Julia bought a cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains 3 weeks ago. In my name? Yours. She used power of attorney. All above board. It's isolated, about 2 hours from Roanoke, Virginia. No neighbors for miles. After she hung up, I sat in my quiet office in Scottsdale, trying to grasp the scale of it. This wasn't just cheating, it was a calculated takedown of my entire life. My phone rang. Vince. Mark, we gotta talk, man. Do we? This is spiraling. Julia's lawyers are in the mix. We can sort this out, just us. How's that? Meet me tonight, Desert Rose Bar, 8 o'clock. Just you and me. I almost agreed. Old habits linger, and Vince had been my buddy for over a decade. Then I pictured my empty shed. I'll think about it, I said and hung up. Instead, I drove to my brother Travis's place across town in Tempe. Travis, 7 years older, had just gotten out on parole after 4 years for assault. We hadn't talked since he was released 8 months ago. Well, look who showed up, he said, opening the door. His apartment was bare but tidy. Prison had taught him to live lean. It also taught him things I was starting to think I needed to learn. I need your take on something, I said. He listened as I laid it all out, not interrupting once. When I was done, he sat quiet for a long minute. "They're setting you up," he finally said. "For what?" "Something ugly. The cabin, the money moves, the divorce filing, they're building a story. Unstable husband, broke, with a remote hideout." He paused. "In my world, when people weave tales like that, it's because they need them for something big. You think they want me gone for good? Dead, locked up, or just vanished, it's all the same to them." A chill ran through me, sharper than the November desert air. "What do I do?" Travis grinned, "First time since I got there. You outplayed him. But first, you gotta stop being the old Mark. That guy was honest, trusting, and played it straight. That guy just got crushed by people he cared about. So who do I become? Someone who gets that when people try to bury you, you either stay down or claw your way out. And if you claw out, you make damn sure they can't try again." I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, mapping it out. By dawn, I'd filled 20 pages with notes, timelines, and plans. The old Mark Bennett was gone. Time to see what the new one could pull off. First, I hit up an electronics shop in Mesa and bought surveillance gear, small cameras, audio recorders, GPS trackers, stuff I never thought I'd need in my own house. Second, I started acting like I was falling apart, letting them think they'd already won. I sat across from Julia at breakfast the next morning, sipping coffee, my voice breaking just enough to sound convincing. "I can't wrap my head around this," I said, letting my shoulders sag. 15 years, Julia. 15 years together, and I never saw it coming. What kind of guy misses something like that? Her face shifted, not with guilt, but with that calculating look she was so good at hiding. She was sizing me up, adjusting her plan based on how pathetic I seemed. "You're a decent man who put his trust in the wrong people," she said, reaching for my hand across the table. "That's not on you." Her tone was so polished, so sympathetic, I almost bought it. "I keep replaying it," I said, staring into my mug. "Maybe if I'd focused more on you instead of the company, or been a better husband." "This isn't about you failing as a husband," she cut in. "It's about me screwing up, making awful choices." I looked up, letting my eyes show just the right mix of pain and confusion. "Then why file for divorce? If it's your mistake, why am I the one losing everything?" For a split second, her mask slipped, annoyance flashed before the caring wife act snapped back. "We both need space to figure out what's next," she said. "The divorce doesn't have to be forever. It's just a breather." That afternoon, while Julia was at her office, I rigged the house with surveillance gear, tiny cameras tucked into air vents, behind bookshelves, inside light fixtures. I checked the feeds on my phone to make sure they worked. Then I drove to see my accountant, Karen Lopez, in downtown Tempe. "Mark, I need to ask," she said, pulling out a stack of bank statements. "Have you been pulling out large sums of cash lately?" "What are you talking about?" She showed me records I'd never seen. Over the past 5 months, someone had siphoned off chunks of money from our accounts, always just shy of $10,000 to avoid federal flags. "These were made with your debit card and PIN," she said. I stared at the numbers, $52,000 gone. "I didn't touch that money." "The transactions used your card and PIN," she said. "Could someone else have gotten hold of them?" I thought about Julia handling our finances, knowing every password, every detail, and those power of attorney papers Carla mentioned. "Yeah," I said. "Someone has access to everything." That night, Julia came home with takeout burgers and a bottle of red wine, her version of a peace offering, but it felt more like a Last Supper. "I've been thinking about what you said this morning," she started, "about us needing to work harder." "Have you?" I asked, playing the eager, broken husband. "I'd do anything to save us." She smiled, but it was hollow, never reaching her eyes. "There's just one catch. I think you need to work on yourself first. Maybe spend some time somewhere else." "Like where?" "I found a place," she said. "A cabin up in the Smoky Mountains. Perfect spot to clear your mind." The cabin she'd bought in my name, isolated, no neighbors for miles. "I don't know," I said, hesitating. "Being alone right now feels wrong." "Mark, I'm worried about you," she said, her voice dripping with concern. "You've been acting off lately." "Off how?" "Angry, suspicious. Yesterday, you accused me of draining our accounts." "I never." "You did," she cut in, and it honestly freaked me out. I let my face go blank, like I was lost. I'm sorry. I don't even remember saying that. That's what scares me, she said. The stress is messing with your head, your memory. She was good, damn good. But I was getting better. Maybe you're right, I said, voice low. Some time away might help. Relief flashed across her face. I'll help you pack. That night, I loaded my car with clothes and a few belongings while Julia watched from the porch, the picture of a concerned wife. To anyone watching, I was a broken man leaving his home. In truth, I was setting the board. The cabin, just as Carla described, was in the middle of nowhere, a single dirt road in, no cell signal, perfect for making someone vanish. I spent the night wiring the place with more surveillance, cameras in the pines, motion sensors along the road, recorders in every corner. If they planned to use this place against me, I'd have proof of it all. The next morning, I called Travis from the cabin's landline. Phase 1's done, I said. I'm in place. Are you sure about this? He asked. They want me alone and weak, so I'll give them a loan and weak, on my terms. And if it goes south? I glanced out at the silent woods surrounding the cabin. Then I'll have a front row seat to my own downfall. The move came faster than I expected. I'd been at the cabin 3 days, playing the shattered husband, when Julia called, her voice thick with worry. Mark, one of your crew called. You missed the Wilson Project meeting yesterday. Slipped my mind, I said. You never miss work stuff, she said. Never. Well, I did this time. I'm worried about you up there alone. Maybe you should come back. I thought you wanted space. I wanted us to think things over, but now I'm wondering if being out there's making it worse. That afternoon, Vince rolled up to the cabin. I watched him on my cameras, parking his SUV and walking to the door with a duffel bag. He was alone, which caught me off guard. The bag didn't. Mark, he called, knocking. It's me. Julia asked me to check on you. I opened the door, looking rough and beaten down. What do you want, Vince? To say sorry and fix this mess. I let him in. He glanced around the bare cabin, shaking his head. Damn, Mark, this place is grim. Matches my mood, I said. Look, what happened with Julia was a screw-up. A big one. But it doesn't have to ruin everything we've got going. Everything we've got? I waved at the empty room. You mean this? My banishment? I mean the company, our friendship, your marriage. My marriage is done, Vince. You saw to that. He set the duffel bag on the table. It's not over. Julia still loves you. She's just confused. Then why is she divorcing me? She's scared, he said. She thinks you're spiraling. I let my shoulders drop lower. Maybe I am. That's why I'm here, he said, unzipping the bag and pulling out a bottle of bourbon. To get you back on track. It was good bourbon, the kind Vince and I used to crack open after wrapping a big job. Remember the Dawson Project? He asked, twisting the cap off the bottle. We sat in that half-finished office, polished off a bottle just like this, talking about the future. Yeah, I said, leaning back in the chair. We were gonna build something that'd outlast us. He poured 2 hefty glasses and slid one my way. To patching things up, he said, lifting his glass. I raised mine but didn't drink. Vince, let me ask you something. Shoot. When did you decide to take my company? His hand stopped, glass halfway to his lips. What are you talking about? The equity swaps, the shell companies, the offshore accounts. When did you figure you'd strip away everything I built? He set his glass down, eyes narrowing. Mark, you're not thinking straight. I'm thinking clearer than I have in years. You've been orchestrating this for over a year. The affair with Julia was just a piece of it. You're out of your mind. Am I? I know you've cashed out your assets. I know Julia's been meeting with that divorce lawyer for months, long before you two got together. I know about the cabin she bought in my name, the power of attorney. Vince's face turned to stone, the worried friend act gone. What's your angle, Mark? My angle is you're here to get rid of me. He let out a laugh, sharp and fake. That's insane. Is it? Middle of nowhere, no witnesses, a nice little story about me losing it. Bet you've got something in that bag to make it look like I did myself in. You're paranoid. Then drink your bourbon, I said, nodding at his glass. He glanced down, untouched drink staring back at him. What? You poured 2 glasses, but you haven't touched yours. If this is just a friendly visit, why aren't you drinking? I'm keeping a clear head, he said. Or you're keeping sober while you wait for me to go down. What's in it, Vince? Sedatives? Something heavier? He stood, slow and deliberate. Mark, you need serious help. I need a lot, but not from you. You're here to tie up loose ends. Problem is, I stopped being one 3 days ago. I pulled out my phone, showing him the live feed from the cameras outside. His SUV, license plate clear, timestamp glowing. Smile, I said. You're being recorded. Vince lunged, but I was ready. Travis had shown me a few moves from his prison days. Vince hit the floor, blood pouring from his nose. The bourbon spiked, I said, standing over him. But the pills came from your bag, not mine. Your prints are all over them. He tried to scramble up, but I pressed my boot to his chest. Stay put. We're not done. You're crazy, he spat. No, I'm prepared. While you and Julia were planning my exit, I was planning my comeback. First step? Making sure everyone knows you tried to take me out. I grabbed the landline and dialed 911. I need to report an attempted murder, I told the dispatcher. Vince's eyes went wide. Mark, don't. We can figure this out. We had over a decade to figure it out. You picked a different path. The cops showed up 25 minutes later. They found Vince on the floor, nose busted, a bag of sedatives with his fingerprints, and a spiked bottle of bourbon. They found me, rattled but clear-headed, with cameras and recorders capturing every second of it. He admitted he and my wife planned this, I told the lead officer. Said they needed me gone for good. We'll need a full statement at the station, the officer said. First, I'm calling my lawyer and my wife. She needs to know that her boyfriend just tried to kill me. As they cuffed Vince and let him out, he looked back, almost impressed. You played this smart, he said. Learn from the best, I shot back. You and Julia taught me the only way to survive is to be tougher than the people trying to ruin you. That night, I called Travis. Phase 2's done, I said. How's it feeling? I glanced around the Stark cabin, thinking about the life I'd lost and the man I'd turned into. Free, I said. For the first time in months, I feel free. Julia's reaction to Vince's arrest was everything I'd expected. She called at 3 a.m., waking me from the best sleep I'd had in weeks, screaming, "What the hell did you do?" I defended myself. Vince says you set him up. Vince tried to drug me and make it look like I offended myself. The cops have the proof. No way. Vince wouldn't what? Steal my company? Sleep with my wife? Plan to kill me? He's done all 3 in the last 2 years. Silence on her end. Then, you're not the man I married. Nope. That guy was naive, too trusting. This guy learns fast. She hung up. The next morning, Travis called with news. Vince made bail, he said. His lawyer got the charges knocked down to assault, not attempted murder, but he's got bigger problems. Word's spreading about what he pulled. His business contacts are bailing. Exactly what I'd hoped. In a town like Scottsdale, reputation was everything. Vince's arrest wouldn't just hurt him legally, it'd torch his professional life. What about Julia? She's hired some PR firm to spin her as the victim while publicly cutting ties with Vince. Smart move. Yeah, but you trained her too well, Travis said. I've been busy too. He'd been working his own angles while I was at the cabin, tapping skills he'd picked up from prison buddies. Those offshore accounts Vince set up, he said. They're not as locked-tight as he thinks. What did you find? My buddy Leo, an old cellmate, knows his way around digital forensics. Used to move money for corporations before he got pinched. What's Leo got? Proof Vince wasn't just skimming from you. He's been fleecing at least 5 other small contractors who trusted him with their investments. We're talking $1.8 million over the last 4 years. I let that land. That's federal. That's a long stretch behind bars if they pin all the charges on him, Travis said. You're feeding this to the feds, right? Anonymous tip to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, I confirmed. They eat up cases like this, clean paper trail, multiple victims, wire fraud crossing state lines. That afternoon, I drove back to Scottsdale and sat down with Greg Walsh to go over the divorce. Vince's arrest flips the script, Greg said, leaning back in his chair. The judge is going to look at Julia's claims about your mental state with a lot more skepticism now. How's that? If her boyfriend tried to kill you, it makes her accusations look like she's pointing fingers to cover her own tracks. What about the kids? We'll push for an emergency custody change, arguing Julia's tied up with a dangerous criminal and can't be trusted to put the kids' interests first. My kids, Sophie, 11, and Liam, 9, had been staying with Julia's brother since Vince's arrest, shielded from the worst of it but knowing something was off. I need to see them, I said. That's tricky right now. Julia's got a temporary restraining order, saying you're unhinged. Based on what? Her word and some supposed texts you sent. Let me see those. Greg slid a folder across the desk. The screenshots showed dozens of messages, allegedly from me, loaded with curses, threats, and rants that got crazier by the day. I didn't send these, I said. Can you prove it? Half of these were sent when I was at the cabin with no cell signal. And I can show someone's been messing with my accounts without my say-so. That's a solid start, Greg said. But, Mark, I gotta ask, any chance you sent these in a rough moment and forgot? I met his eyes. You think I'm losing it, Greg? I think you're under a hell of a lot of pressure and holding up better than most. But the court doesn't know you like I do. That night, I went back to my house, not the cabin, for the first time since Vince got hauled off. Julia was in the living room, boxing up her things. You're not supposed to be here, she said, glaring. I've got a restraining order. This is my house. That order's based on lies, and my lawyer's getting it tossed tomorrow. She kept packing, her movements jerky, pissed off. Where are the kids? I asked. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. They're scared, Mark. Scared of what you've turned into. Have they seen those fake texts you cooked up for the court? She froze. What? The messages you made up to get that order. Did you show them to Sophie and Liam? I didn't make anything up. I pulled out my phone and showed her the metadata Carla had pulled from my phone records. These came from devices I've never touched, sent from places I've never been. At times I can prove I was somewhere else. Care to explain? Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Just like you knew about the cabin, about Vince's plan. The only question is, were you in on it, or just his pawn? Get out, she snapped. This is my house. Not for long, I said, and left her with her boxes. I checked into a motel in Chandler. Time for phase 3. The FBI hit Vince's office at sunrise on a Wednesday. I watched from a coffee shop across the street as agents carted out boxes of files, hard drives, and ledgers. Vince stood in the parking lot, cuffed, his lawyer arguing with the lead agent. By lunchtime, it was all over the local news. Vincent Harper, local businessman, arrested on federal charges of wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. The investigation had widened to include his associates, including Julia, whose marketing consultant license was suspended pending the outcome. I was eating a burger at a diner called Rusty's when Julia called. You did this, she said, no preamble. I did what? You ruined Vince. You ruined me. You tore our family apart. I protected myself from people who tried to bury me first. The FBI took my laptops. They froze my accounts. I can't work, can't pay my lawyer, can't even touch my own money. Sounds familiar, I said. I've got kids to take care of. Our kids. And they'll be fine once they're with their dad, not their criminal mom. You idiot, she hissed. I didn't commit any crimes. Maybe not, but I made sure the feds knew about the ones who did. That afternoon, I met with a child psychologist, Dr. Margaret Cole, recommended by Greg. She'd spent 3 hours with Sophie and Liam. Your kids are confused and scared, she said. They don't get why their parents are at war or why their mom's boyfriend is in jail. What do they know? That their world's been flipped upside down. Sophie keeps asking when things will be normal again. Liam's having nightmares. What kind? Dreams about strangers taking you away, about his mom crying. He's carrying a lot of guilt. Guilt? Kids often think they caused their parents split, like if they'd been better, none of this would have happened. My stomach twisted. In all my scheming to get back at Julia and Vince, I hadn't thought enough about how it'd hit Sophie and Liam. What do I do? Be their dad, she said. Not their savior or their shield from their mom, just their dad. They need steady, not stories about grown-up messes. That evening, I got supervised visitation at a family center in Tempe. A social worker watched as Sophie ran to hug me, but Liam hung back. Dad, why's everyone so mad at you? Sophie asked. It's messy, kiddo. Sometimes adults fight, and it gets out of control. Is it because of Mr. Vince? I glanced at the social worker, who gave me a small nod. Mr. Vince did some things that hurt our family, I said, choosing my words carefully. But that's not on you, and it's not something you need to worry about. Is Mom in trouble? Liam asked, his voice small. Mom's dealing with some stuff right now, but she loves you both a ton. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Sophie piped up. Yeah, but that doesn't change how much we love you. We spent the next hour playing checkers, coloring, and chatting about their school projects, normal dad stuff. For a little while, I forgot about the revenge, the FBI, all of it, and just soaked in being their father. When it was time to go, Sophie hugged me tight. When can we come home, Dad? Soon, I hope, kiddo. That night, I called Travis. How do you deal with it? I asked. Deal with what? The fallout. The people who get hurt who didn't deserve it. He went quiet for a long stretch. Truth? You don't. You just decide if the fight's worth it. If it is, you fight, and you handle the mess later. But, Mark, be real about what you're fighting for. Justice? You got that when Vince got arrested and Julia's divorce case started crumbling. What are you doing now? That's punishment. He was right, and it stung. They tried to wipe me out, I said. And you wiped them back. The question is, where's the line? I didn't have an answer. Julia's world unraveled piece by piece, then all at once. The Scottsdale Sun ran a front-page story about the FBI probe, with photos of her office getting raided and quotes from anonymous sources tying her to Vince's schemes. By Wednesday, 2 of her top marketing clients had bailed. By Friday, her firm had sidelined her indefinitely. It started with whispers, parents murmuring at school drop-off, quick glances in the grocery store, old friends ducking out when they saw her. In a place like Scottsdale, whispers don't stay quiet. Within a week, everyone knew Julia Bennett had been sleeping with her husband's partner while helping him fleece local contractors. They knew her boyfriend had tried to kill her husband. They knew the FBI was digging into her finances. Truth didn't matter much, here, perception was reality, and reality stuck. I watched it unfold from a distance, torn between grim satisfaction and a sour taste in my mouth. These were the same people who'd laughed with Julia at neighborhood cookouts, hired her for their ad campaigns, and invited us to their kids' birthday parties. Now they treated her like an outsider. The final blow came at a PTA meeting at the kids' school. Sophie was in 5th grade, Liam in 3rd. Julia had been the go-to mom for Liam's class, organizing bake sales and volunteering for field trips. None of that counted now. Carla Ruiz, still keeping tabs on Julia, filled me in. She showed up to the monthly meeting and wanted to talk about the fall festival. How'd that go? About as bad as you'd expect. A few parents walked out when she arrived. The principal pulled her aside. By the end, they voted to boot her from all volunteer roles. Did it pass? Every hand went up. That night, Julia called from her brother's place. Sophie came home crying today, she said, her voice raw. What happened? Kids at school are talking. About me, Vince, our family. What are they saying? That I'm a crook, that I tried to have you killed, that I'm a bad mom. My chest tightened. Kids can be mean. It's not just kids, Mark. It's the parents, and their kids are parroting it. Sophie asked if I'm going to jail. What did you say? What could I say? I don't even know anymore. A long pause hung between us. I want to make a deal, she said finally. What kind? Take whatever you want, the house, the kids, the business. I'll testify against Vince if it helps. Just make this stop. I can't stop it, Julia. You started this when you betrayed me. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. That's a lie. You wanted me gone, my life in pieces, so you could take what I built. Her voice cracked. You're right. I was wrong, Mark. I'm so sorry. It was the first time she'd owned up to anything, the first truth she'd told. Sorry doesn't fix what's broken, I said. I know. But maybe it's something. After she hung up, I sat in my motel room, trying to pin down what I felt. Triumph? Regret? Mostly, I just felt hollow. Travis showed up an hour later. Heard you talk to Julia, he said. How'd you? Never mind. Yeah, she's done for. Are you happy? My kids are hurting, I said. They're collateral damage in a war they didn't sign up for. He nodded, his face grim. That's the cost, Mark. You gotta decide if it's worth paying. My kids were caught in the crossfire of choices made by adults who were supposed to keep them safe. The school counselor called today, I told Travis, sitting in my motel room. Liam's been getting into fights, blowing off homework. Sophie's grades are tanking. We keep saying kids bounce back, but is that true, or just something we tell ourselves to feel less guilty for messing up their lives? Travis sat across from me, his face serious. You want to know what I learned in prison? What? There's a line between justice and revenge. Justice sets things right. Revenge just breaks more stuff. So what are you saying? You got your justice, Mark. Vince is looking at prison. Julia's lost her career, her reputation. Your company's back in your hands. The kids'll be with you soon. Everyone knows you were the victim, not the bad guy. But if you keep pushing, keep crushing them, you're turning into the thing you fought against. Stop now, and maybe your kids get their dad back, the real one, not this angry shadow you've been. That weekend, I got overnight visitation with Sophie and Liam. I ditched the motel for a 2-bedroom apartment in Mesa, trying to make things feel normal. Sophie helped me whip up waffles for breakfast, while Liam showed me a drawing he'd made, a stick-figure family in front of a house, all smiling. Where's Mom in this? I asked. She's at work, he said. But she'll be home for dinner. He still didn't get that our family was gone, not like it used to be. Dad, Sophie said as we washed dishes, are you gonna marry someone else? I don't know, kiddo. Why? Mom said you hate her now. I don't hate her, but yeah, I'm mad at her. Will you ever not be mad? I looked at my daughter, her wide eyes begging for peace, and Travis's words hit me hard. I'd won the fight, but I was losing my kids in the process. I hope so, I said. I really do. The showdown I'd been dodging came on a chilly Tuesday in November. I was leaving Greg's office after signing the final custody agreement, joint custody, with the kids living mostly with me, when I spotted Vince by my truck. He looked rough, gaunt, like he hadn't slept in weeks. His bail terms kept him stuck in Scottsdale, unable to work or reach out to his old contacts. Mark, he said as I got closer, we gotta talk. Not a good idea. Your lawyer wouldn't like it. Forget my lawyer. This is between us. I stopped a safe distance away, close enough to hear, far enough to bolt if I had to. What do you want, Vince? I want to know why you did this. Did what? Stopped you from killing me? You know that's not what went down at the cabin. Do I? The police report says you brought pills to a nowhere spot and tried to slip them in my drink. They were sleeping pills for me, he said, voice low. I was gonna end it, Mark. Not you. That caught me off guard. Bull. I was in over my head. The business, the affair, the lies, it was all crashing down. I went to the cabin to say sorry, then check out. Then why not tell the cops that? My lawyer said it'd make me look guilty. Like I was admitting to everything. I searched his face for the lies I'd learned to spot, but he just looked broken, desperate. Even if that's true, I said, it doesn't erase what you and Julia did. I know. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking for a little mercy. The FBI case, you gave them the records, the tips, everything. Without you, they wouldn't have half the case they've got. He wasn't wrong. Carla had been funneling info to the feds for weeks, all of it built on what I'd dug up. You committed the crimes, Vince. I just made sure people knew. Those other contractors I supposedly ripped off? Most of that wasn't theft, just bad deals, investments that tanked. Some of it was theft. Maybe, but not $1.8 million worth. The feds are juicing the numbers to make it look worse. Not my problem. It is if you've got any decency left. Anger flared up, hot and familiar. Decency? You slept with my wife, stole my company, drained my accounts, and tried to paint me as crazy. Where was your decency? You're right. I was a coward, a thief. But I wasn't a killer, Mark. I never wanted to destroy you, I just wanted what you had. Well, you had it for a few months. How'd that work out? It didn't. Julia never loved me. She was playing me, same as she played you. I was just dumb enough to think it was real. There was a rawness in his voice that made me pause. What are you saying? It was all her plan, the affair, the business grab, the cabin. She played us both. You're lying. Am I? When did Julia first bring up me investing in your company? I thought back. 2 years ago. You said you had cash to spare. She told me you were struggling, too proud to ask for help. I wasn't struggling. I know that now. She showed me fake financials, made it look like you were sinking. Said you were thinking of selling, that I could buy in, help you ease out, maybe retire. I never mentioned retiring. Exactly. The equity swaps, the shell companies, she set it all up. I just signed where she pointed. You're just dodging blame, I said, but my gut was starting to churn. I'm just trying to tell you the truth, finally, Vince said, his voice low, his eyes carrying a shame I hadn't seen before. Julia planned it all. I was just the guy she used, the affair, the muscle. He looked down, almost like he believed it himself. That part was real, at least to me. But looking back, she reeled me in, Mark. She made me fall for her so I'd do whatever she wanted, even if it meant taking you out. You expect me to believe you didn't want me dead at the cabin? Think about it. Pills and bourbon? If I wanted you gone, I'm a contractor, I know how to stage an accident. There's a dozen cleaner ways to do it. He had a point. Vince wasn't dumb. If he'd meant to kill me, it wouldn't have been so sloppy. So what's your angle? I asked. Julia sent me there to have that talk, to grovel, to make peace. She knew you'd flip out, knew it'd land me in cuffs. Why would she want that? If I'm locked up, I can't spill what I know about her part in the money schemes. And if we're at each other's throats, we're not comparing notes about how she played us both. I stood there in the parking lot, my head spinning. If Vince was right, if Julia had orchestrated not just the affair and the theft but the whole cabin showdown, I'd been outmaneuvered worse than I thought. Why tell me now? My lawyer says I can cut a deal if I flip on Julia, give up evidence on her role in the financial stuff. Maybe dodge federal time. You want my blessing? I want you to know the truth. What you do with it's your call. He started to walk away, then turned back. For what it's worth, Mark, I'm sorry. Not just for getting caught, for everything. You were a good friend, and I screwed you over. I'll carry that forever. So will I said. After he left, I sat in my truck and called Travis. Vince says Julia was the mastermind, I told him. Of course he does. He's staring down 20 years. But what if he's telling the truth? Does it change anything? They both stabbed you in the back. They both signed up for it. It matters if Julia's still playing us against each other. So what's your move? I glanced at the courthouse across the lot, where I'd just signed the custody papers, where my marriage to Julia officially ended, where Vince would face trial for his crimes. I'm gonna dig until I know how far this goes. The truth came from an unexpected place, Kendra, Julia's sister. She showed up at my apartment on a Saturday night, half drunk, tears streaming down her face. I can't keep this up, she said, shoving past me into the living room. Keep what up? Lying for her, covering her tracks, watching her ruin everyone around her. Kendra flopped onto the couch. She was 2 years younger than Julia, always the wild one, the family mess up. I thought Julia was trying to help her get straight. What are you talking about? Everything, the affair, the money, your company. It was all planned. Vince said the same thing. Vince only knows half the story. She pulled out her phone and showed me a chain of texts going back 2 years between her and Julia, laying out a cold, calculated plan to bleed me dry while keeping Julia's hands clean. She started sleeping with Vince to get into your business records, Kendra said. It wasn't about love or attraction, it was about getting dirt. Dirt on what? Your accounts, passwords, client lists, everything she needed to siphon off money without you noticing. I scrolled through the messages, my blood boiling. She used Vince's investment to get her foot in the door of your company, Kendra went on. Once she had access, she started funneling cash to offshore accounts. How much? At least $350,000 from your business, plus the $52,000 from your personal accounts, plus the value of your tools and gear. It gets worse, she added. She took out a second mortgage on the house behind your back, using a forged signature and her power of attorney. How much? $250,000. It's sitting in an account in the Bahamas. How do you know all this? Because I helped her, Kendra said, tears spilling again. I'm a paralegal, remember? I know how to draft documents, fake signatures, move money without leaving a trail. Why'd you do it? She's my sister. She told me you were controlling, abusive. Showed me doctored photos of bruises, fake medical reports. Said she was scared but couldn't leave because you held all the money. And you bought it? She's convincing, Mark. Always has been. She's been playing me since we were kids, and knows exactly how to pull my strings. I thought back to Julia's calm, measured reaction when I caught her with Vince, how she turned it around to make me question myself. When did you figure out she was lying? When Vince got arrested. She called me, laughing, actually laughing, about how well it all went. Her boyfriend was in jail, her husband was out in the cold, and she had enough cash stashed to vanish whenever she wanted. But Vince's arrest wasn't part of her plan. No, that was me. And it rattled her. For the first time, someone pushed back in a way she didn't see coming. Kendra wiped her eyes and looked at me. She's planning to run, Mark. Take the kids and disappear. My heart stopped. She can't. The custody agreement, she doesn't care about that. She's got new IDs, new accounts, everything ready to start over somewhere else. When? Soon. Maybe this weekend. Panic clawed at my chest. Julia could take everything else, my money, my business, my trust, but not my kids. Where's she going? I don't know, but I've got something that might help. Kendra handed me a flash drive. It's all here, she said. Bank records, forged papers, emails with offshore accounts, even recordings of our talks. Everything. Why give this to me? I asked. Because Sophie and Liam deserve a mom who doesn't use them as bargaining chips. And I'm done being her accomplice. That night, I called an emergency meeting with Greg Walsh, FBI agent Torres, and Travis. We gathered in Greg's office at 1 a.m. Agent Torres scanned the flash drive. If Kendra's telling the truth, he said, Julia's facing charges for money laundering, fraud, potential kidnapping, and identity theft. Federal level stuff. Can you stop her from taking the kids? I asked. We'll try, but we need more than her sister's word. We need hard evidence to back it up. I can get you evidence, Travis said. We all turned to him. What kind? Torres asked. The kind that'll lock her up for good. The plan was risky but straightforward. Travis would reach out to Julia, claiming he had dirt that could sink me in the custody fight. He'd set a meeting at the Smoky Mountains cabin, same place Vince and I had our showdown. While they talked, Agent Torres would have teams ready to record everything and arrest Julia if she admitted to her crimes. What if she doesn't bite? I asked. She will, Travis said. She's desperate, and desperate people do dumb things. If she doesn't spill, we tail her and catch her trying to run with the kids. It was a gamble, but it was all we had. The next morning, Travis made the call. Julia, it's Travis, Mark's brother. We need to talk. She took the bait. They set the meeting for Saturday afternoon at the cabin, with Travis claiming he had evidence that'd kill my custody case and offering to sell it for $60,000. I watched it all go down from a surveillance van parked a mile away, listening through the wire Travis wore. You said you had something that could help me, Julia's voice crackled through the feed. I do, Travis said, but first, I need to know how deep you're in. I'm not in anything. My husband's a bitter man trying to ruin me because he can't handle rejection. Come on, Julia. I know about the money, the offshore accounts, the forged signatures, the fake IDs. Mark might be clueless, but I'm not. A long pause. What do you want, Travis? A deal that works for both of us. What kind of deal? I've got recordings of Mark setting up Vince, admitting he planted evidence, coerced witnesses, even threatened to kill Vince if he didn't play ball with the FBI. All lies, but Julia didn't know that. If that's true, why not go to the cops? He's my brother. I don't want to bury him, but I also don't want to see an innocent woman get screwed over. Innocent's a stretch, she said. Maybe. But you're not the villain he's making you out to be. Look, give me $60,000, promise you'll vanish quietly with the kids, start over somewhere Mark can't find you. I can't just take the kids and run. That's kidnapping. Not if you're saving them from an abusive dad. Agent Torres glanced at me, shaking his head. Julia was playing it safe, too cagey to admit anything damning. But then Travis dropped his trump card. I know about the Bahamas accounts, he said. What about them? I know where the money came from, the skimmed business funds, the second mortgage, the sold-off assets. I know about the new identities you've got lined up. You don't know anything. Laura Peterson, 37, single mom of 2. That's your new name, right? Sophie and Liam get new birth certificates, new social security numbers. Silence stretched for nearly a minute. How do you know that? Julia finally asked, her voice tight. Because I helped Kendra set it up. Who do you think she got the fake documents from? I've got prison contacts, people who specialize in new lives. This was risky, Travis was ad-libbing, and if Julia called his bluff, it could fall apart. You're lying, she said. Am I? Check your phone. A pause, then Julia's sharp gasp. How'd you get these? Travis had sent her photos, ones I couldn't see from the van, but Torres was capturing it all. Your new driver's license, passport, the kids' birth certificates. I've got copies of everything. This is blackmail, Julia snapped, her voice sharp through the wire. It's business, Travis shot back. Pay me $60,000, I delete the copies and keep quiet about Mark's so-called crimes. Don't pay, and it all goes to the FBI. I don't have that kind of cash lying around. Sure you do. Those Bahamas accounts might be frozen, but you've got other stashes the feds haven't found yet. A long pause hung in the air. There might be some funds in Panama, she admitted finally. Agent Torres grinned and gave me a nod from the surveillance van. We had her. How much? Travis pressed. Maybe $450,000, give or take. It's hard to keep track. Damn, Julia, how much did you take from him? I didn't take anything. I claimed what I deserved as his wife, by signing his name and cleaning out his accounts without him knowing. By protecting yourself from a guy you say was getting unhinged and violent? Mark never touched me. He didn't need to. Controlling the money's abuse. Gaslighting me's abuse. And screwing his best friend? What kind of abuse was that? That was survival. I needed someone in my corner, and Vince was willing. Willing to help you ruin your husband. Willing to help me escape a marriage that was choking me. Travis let the silence stretch, giving her room to bury herself. I didn't want anyone hurt, she went on. But Mark wasn't going to let me walk away clean. So you walked away with his money and his kids. I took what was mine. And if that meant making him look crazy, so be it. And if it meant having Vince take him out? Vince wasn't supposed to kill him. That meeting was about getting Mark to sign over the rest of his business. With spiked bourbon and pills? The pills were to make him agreeable, not knock him out. If he wouldn't sign, we'd figure it out from there. Agent Torres was practically vibrating. Julia had just admitted to conspiracy, fraud, and coercion on a federal wire. That's enough, he said into his radio. Go. The feds moved fast, swarming the cabin while Julia was still talking, digging her own grave with every word. I watched through binoculars as they cuffed her and read her rights. She looked stunned, like her perfect scheme had crumbled and she couldn't figure out how. Travis stepped out of the cabin and gave me a wave from across the distance. It was done. The trial dragged on for 9 months. Julia was convicted on 16 federal charges, money laundering, fraud, conspiracy, and more, and got 14 years. Vince cut a deal, testified against her, and walked away with 5 years. Kendra got 8 months in county for her part in the forgeries but was out on probation after flipping on her sister. The money, over $700,000, was clawed back from offshore accounts and returned to me. Enough to rebuild my company, buy a new house in Tempe, and set up trust funds for Sophie and Liam's college. The kids handled it better than I expected. They live with me full-time now, visiting Julia once a month at the federal prison near Roanoke. It's not perfect, but it's steady. Sophie's in high school, Liam's in middle school, good kids, tough, smart, nothing like their mom. On the 5-year anniversary of Julia's arrest, I drove back to the Smoky Mountains cabin. The state had taken it during asset recovery, and it had been left to rot since. I walked through the empty rooms where my old life had burned down, thinking about who I was and who I'd become. Travis was right about justice versus revenge. Justice was Julia locked up, the money back, my kids safe. Revenge would have been uglier, something that might have taken me down with her. I pulled out an old photo from our wedding, Julia in her dress, me in a cheap tux, both of us young, dumb, and thinking it'd last forever. I set it on the dusty kitchen counter and struck a match. As the flames ate the picture, I remembered what Julia yelled as they dragged her away, "You're a monster." Maybe I was. Maybe you have to become one when people try to bury you alive. But I was a monster who'd kept his kids safe, taken back his life, and made sure the people who betrayed him couldn't hurt anyone else. Some guys crack under the weight. Others burn it all down. Me? I buried the old mark next to their lies and climbed out of the hole they dug. I didn't miss that guy. I walked away from the smoldering photo, the rotting cabin, the last pieces of who I used to be. Behind me, smoke curled into the fall sky like a send-off for the man they tried to erase. Ahead, Sophie and Liam were waiting, probably arguing over what to make for Sunday dinner. Whatever came next, I was ready for it.